What's up, everyone? This is Resilience in Action with Erin Brown, the #1 podcast for anyone looking to have a greater human experience. This episode contains topics that may be triggering for some people. Viewers' discretion is advised. What's going on? What's going on, everyone? It's another episode of Resilience in Action with I forgot my name, with Erin Brown. This is going to be amazing. And today we have Tawanna Woolfolk. I'm not going to butcher your bio. You sent it to me, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to love it, but I want you to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I appreciate that, Erin. So I first, you didn't plan this, but I think it's important for your beautiful audience, for us to just have a moment to celebrate you, and thank you, because it is, not every day that we get space and permission to show up as we are, the beautiful unicorns that we are, rainbow unicorns that we are. And to have the space to show up, to share our stories, and to know that we don't have to do any extra performing or underperforming to deserve a seat at the table. So I just want to celebrate you for creating this space and for you making your way through the world and the journey you've had to do. So I just want to do that first.
Thank you. That means so much. Because short story, I've been struggling, right? I've had a lot going on, like health wise, a lot of, unanswered questions. What's going on? Well, what's this? What's that? And my mental health has just been like ebbs and flows, and I've been in one of those down areas. So thank you for just pouring into me. I did not expect this at all. Listeners, I had no idea that this was happening. But I am ever so grateful that you decided to take that first little bit of time to, just pour into me a little bit. I do very appreciate that so much.
Absolutely. And I thought it would really, in a way, get to the heart and root of who I am, right? Is someone who um, really, I can't deny and unsee and undo the power um, of the fact that we don't exist in vacuums, right? And how you've chosen to journey through the world and show up in the world is why resilience in action is even a damn thing, right? If you think about it, and why I'm even here. And so part of how I've learned to journey through the world and in my own ingenious ways, learn to adapt to my trauma, my triumph, my overwhelm, my stress, is by acknowledging those who have invested in me without me signing on a dotted line, guaranteeing their return back in their investment, that they just blindly show up and invest. And so that's what I kind of see you doing. And I imagine and I hope that others have done that for you. And so that is kind of what I'm about. And that's how I lead in the world. That's how I practice as a therapist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm about to go into my 20th year in the field. My 40,
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. My 43rd birthday is on the 20th of December.
Oh,
So,
okay,
um,
let's go.
yes, yes. So I don't know, you may know by the end of this really how profound this moment is for me, quite honestly. And so just thank you again. It's, it's amazing. This summer I was reunited um, virtually with the help of my therapist, with my biological mother. And after she had terminated her rights to me and my half brother when I was 5 and
Mm-hmm.
he was 3.5. And it's made me a believer that it is just never too late. It just really
Absolutely.
fucking is never too late.
Yeah.
And I remember when I asked my therapist to be a part of facilitating what really essentially was a reunification in May. I remember saying to my mother, she I she was talking about how, and she gave me permission to share this, but just how there's still that little girl that lives within her 50 something year old self that doesn't feel like she belongs
Mm,
and feels dirty, right? And that's just the trauma showing up, right? And I said to her these words about like how much she deserves, and had she ever considered therapy? Had she ever considered that she is beyond deserving of healing? And it was so profound to talk to her a couple of weeks ago, to hear her talk about how very much, and how I was reintroduced to her, and how you and I met, poured into her, right? This message of her deservingness. And she didn't show up for me to tell her that, but she needed to know, because I know that she's been living, journeying through this world with an immense amount of shame
mm,
and guilt and trauma. And I thought, man, I can't be reunited with my mother only for her to not feel like living is not an option, and that living her best life is not an option. And so I wanted to give her that, because had she not made the brave decision, whatever went into that decision to give me up for adoption, um that I wouldn't be here potentially, right?
mhm.
Does that make sense to
Of
you?
course, absolutely. I think we have a lot in common. Yes,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and so again, just kind of going back to, well, who is Tawanna, right? Like that's part of my roots, right? And again, I just never say it's too late to show up as the most authentic, beautiful version of who you are. And part of who I am is connected to generations of trauma and overwhelm and stress and triumph and um, oppression, racism, and it's just important for me that whomever I'm connected to knows um, that they belong, in part because of the work that I've done, my own intensive trauma work. That again, my therapist, who when she and I started working together over a year ago, we both realized that I could benefit from EMDR, eye movement desensitization therapy. And I'm also an EMDR therapist. And so she supported me in getting connected with somebody who could do that journey with me and steward me through.
Yeah. What was
And
that experience like?
so it was really profound. And I I got introduced with this beautiful woman out of North Carolina, and the state of Connecticut had opened its statutes for out-of-state clinicians to practice during the height of the pandemic. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
so I think a lot of, it may sound corny and cliche, but if it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't know if I would have met this beautiful woman, this
Mhm.
beautiful therapist. And so she's a somatic attachment focused EMDR therapist, which I'm trained in. And I had just done my first weekend of basic training in EMDR, and I was like, I need this shit in my life. I've been walking around with these boo-boos for far too long,
Yeah.
and I've been knocking on far too many doors to still be walking with this boo-boo, like bleeding and not healing.
Hmm.
And I got my taste of this training. I said, "Oh no, I need this in my life." I emailed the admin of the creator of the institute I was getting trained in. Do
Hmm.
y'all have anybody that can give me intensives for? They hooked my ass up. Oh my goodness! So I did like 3 or 4 intensives, which I was with this therapist virtually for about 4 hours, for a little over 4 hours each sitting.
Oh.
And um and so that's one way, right, that you can do it, or just a traditional, 60-minute sessions or whatever. But I was ready for deep, intensive work. And it was really profound because, part of my own learning with EMDR and my own trauma work is that we were able to get to the roots connected to the behaviors and thoughts and beliefs and and somatic feelings that have been recycling themselves all my life.
Hmm.
And it was so profound when we were in this part of the work where we were hitting on the root connected to really what goes into how I conceptualize my belonging in the world. And so essentially, we were kind of getting to the root of what is essentially the negative cognition that I really operate on. And it's so
Mm.
freaking sexy and seductive, man, because it's invisible. It's so invisible, but until
Yeah.
you're with the right steward to help you get hit on the root, let me tell you, Erin, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So the way she was doing it, it was like, she could have just stopped at the first negative cognition I said, which was something about maybe not feeling worthy or something.
Hmm.
And then she was like, well, what does that mean about you? Then she just kept asking, what's that mean? What's that mean about you? What's that mean about you? Until we both had this gasp, this release, when I said something to the effect of, I wasn't meant to be born. I wasn't meant to be here. I'm not meant to be alive. And we both just looked at each other in the screen. And she said it before I did. And she said, Tawanna, it's no fucking wonder you're still alive. Like, someone who's thinking like that could have led you to dying by suicide, or leading a life that just would have led you to the ultimate darkness. Like,
Hmm.
to literally wholeheartedly believe that you are not meant to exist. How the fuck was I walking through the world like I was walking through for over 40 years, believing that,
That's heavy. That's heavy.
right? And it made so much sense because I always wondered, from very young, I always thought something was weird about me still living.
Hmm.
How did I know as a little girl, 3, 4, 5-year old, that finding finding a water source out of the toilets was what was going to keep me alive? How did I know that? How did I know that digging through trash cans would be a source for food?
Hmm.
How did I know to use my imagination to smell shampoos when I was locked in dark bathrooms, naked in the bathtub, that smelling that and imagining what it would taste like would be enough to get me through? How the fuck did I know that?
Mm.
And here I am journeying through life, just still feeling like both something's magical about while I'm still existing and yet not wanting to exist at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
Wondering what hit you when I said that, what came to
Yeah.
mind and body.
Yeah. Wow. That that just whew.
Yeah,
Whew.
yeah,
Knowing that like you're living in your purpose, but sometimes it doesn't seem like enough.
yeah,
Sometimes you don't seem like enough and you don't feel like
yeah,
enough.
yeah,
And I've always gone through life feeling like a burden.
yeah,
And I attest that tie that to growing up. My birth parents didn't want me, they chose other sources. So my
yeah.
grandparents raised me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and just the trauma of that in itself.
Right.
Um, and you know, my older sister, who's my aunt, but my older sister, like she was the baby and then I came.
Mm-hmm.
So the attention got taken away from her. So now she's mad at me. And all of this while I never asked for any of this. All the while, it took me so
Right.
long to realize that I didn't ask for any of this.
Right.
But here I am being able
Right.
to talk to you today
Yes.
after a number of suicide attempts
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and just really, really feeling and visiting and knowing what the darkest corners of my life were
Right.
and how, as you said, how the fuck did how did I
How?
navigate that?
Right.
We were meant to have this conversation because
Yes, we were.
go. I told you we have a lot in common. Um, Go ahead and finish your story. I just wanted to know that I see you, I hear you, and I acknowledge your presence and your existence in being here.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Mm.
that's why I had to celebrate you, baby, because
Mm.
listen, for two people, and I know that you have come across countless other beautiful people that you've had on your podcast and alike, and who we've been close to death,
Mm-hmm.
if not there. And you just, and I tell my clients, I'm like, that's the fire that burns in me. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's when you've been close to death, if not there, there's no unseeing that, unfeeling that. And I think about how in the third grade, how I just I never I met my match, my third grade teacher, Miss Coleman, who had this zest for life that, like, if I didn't know any better, like I would think that she was like on another planet, because homegirl would, like, with her salt and pepper hair cut short, like she had like little masculine energy about her. But like she would hop on desk, she would just her excitement about the potential of our brains.
Mm.
So when I got that permission, I was like, oh, okay, well, I, I don't know why I'm still here. What do I mean? What is my purpose? So I ended up discovering Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know if you've ever read that by Viktor Frankl.
My my wife's mother-in-law bought that for me. I want to say 2 or 3 Christmases ago. Yeah, I have
Mm,
that book. I own that.
yes, yes.
Mm.
Well, let me tell you, in third grade, I don't know what the hell I was doing reading that in third grade, but knowing what I know about my shiny unicorn self, I know why.
I love it.
What was I doing reading
That's
practically a college book? Like, what was
that's a
third
big
grade?
book for a third grader. Wow.
Right?
Okay.
But it was Victor's testimony of being both a prisoner and a survivor of the Jewish concentration camps, and watching his people die around him, and this thought about why, what
Mm-hmm.
were the roots connected to that? And this whole piece around how he made it non-negotiable. Of course, I'm really, high level paraphrasing, but like I encourage people to definitely get the book. But this concept of like making it non-negotiable for anyone to have power over where your mind can go, no matter how much captive they have of your body
Mm-hmm.
or how battered it's being, that no one can control where I can go in my mind. And essentially, that's what helped him survive, because he could go wherever he wanted in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
That he could connect with whatever reality was he longed for, and that's what really sowed the seeds of hope and faith. And that was the difference, was that he had that and his family lost that.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is just really, there are no words to just, how does one survive that, right? But it was that resonated with me. Like, how did I survive? How did I what was it that made me at 5 years old take my little brother to go break into trailers in our complex? Like, who does that? Like,
Yeah.
what was it in me that like gave me that hope and faith, that whatever, to go like search for food? Like, what was that, right? So reading Victor's words in third grade, it became my survival guide.
Mm,
And and who knew that like I would years later be in the position of being a healer, right? And a therapist. I had no intentions of being a therapist.
hmm.
Actually, I wanted to go into cosmetology school, culinary school, or art school. That's where I was going. Like,
That's two different
I,
completely stop. Two.
Hey, hey, hey. Did you know I wrote a book? It's called The Value Method: 5 Steps to Unlocking Your Greatest Potential. And in it, I share just that: 5 wildly easy, actionable steps that will set you up to have a greater human experience daily. I've included interactive worksheets and small assignments at the end of each chapter. You're literally creating a living blueprint of your best life. Be sure to check out the show notes for the link to purchase your copy and a copy for a friend.
you think, but both, you need creativity,
Hmm.
ingenuity, flexibility, be able to think out of the box,
Mm,
innovation. If you think about it, my 19 years now in the field, it I realized that what I would have had to lean on if I had gone in those arenas
hmm.
and down that path, it's the same thing. It's the same DNA and building blocks. It's the same thing
Yeah.
because that's what helps me be successful today.
Mm.
This is an art.
Come through. Come on.
It is a fucking art.
Come on. Yes.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like when we when we have the self-awareness that allows us to want to help others, especially coming from such traumatic pasts and
Yeah.
upbringing,
Hmm.
that within itself is a masterpiece.
Yes.
It's
Beautiful
art.
said. Yep.
Absolutely. That within itself is a masterpiece. Like not giving up, because how
Yep.
easy would it have been just to give up, go through
Yep.
life and
Yep.
just survive.
Yes. Yes.
But we chose
Yes.
something different. You chose something different.
Yes. Yes,
What
we
did
did.
what did you choose? What was it that you chose that solidified that for you?
You know, that's a beautiful question, my dear. And I think I'm still choosing.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, I like that.
I, because what I realized that it's a choice, it's a choice to live intentionally every moment. And that might sound exhausting, right? That might sound really exhausting. Um, but it really is like moving from living on automatic pilot and living in a way that like you're like where there's so much potential but yet you're settling for less, and no judgment against that, but most times we're filled with so much apathy that we want that thing but it just seems insurmountable to get to.
Mm,
So like transitioning from living in that kind of space to a space where it's like, oh dude, like I got an opportunity for like a fresh start today.
hmm.
Like, how do I live this day out like no other? And so it really is a day, like every day is a choice in the way
Mm,
I choose to live it. And before I got into the field almost 20 years ago, um, a um, a practitioner in the field, Irvin Yalom, who's written a lot of books, but he talked about this concept of that he never assumes that, and this was kind of a defining moment that connects with your question about what did I ultimately choose.
Mm-hmm.
So he talked about this concept of like not assuming that his clients are going to come back for the next session, like never having this assuming mindset, right? Because if you think about it, in a position of provider client, right, whatever arena that's in, there's just this assumption that I give you an appointment and you come back.
Yeah.
It's a whole new thing to live as if, because really what he was talking about is because I don't lean in that assumption, I assume this very session is our last one. So what does that fucking mean when this could be our last moment? You show the hell up and out.
Mm-hmm.
That is a whole nother energy. There is no settling energy when you lead in that way. And so that is essentially how I choose to show up as much as I can. And so that's how I show up in my sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I say to my clients, you choose every time you show up here, it's a choice. I don't own you. You're not wedded to me. It is an active choice. And and I may say things today that if I had a mindset where I just assumed that we have tomorrow, I may not say.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's on a, if you can imagine the energy connected to living in that way and
Yeah.
existing and relating in that way.
Of
It
course.
doesn't mean I'm on 10 all the time, but it just means that when I show up, I show up.
Whereas when
Like,
it's
what does
time
that,
to show up, you show
yeah,
up. Like,
yeah,
and all you have to do is show up.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes. And that's enough for a celebration. That is enough to go all out for. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and when I can't show up as my best self, I don't mean perfect, but when I can't show up in a way that aligns with what would feel nourishing to me and say to my people, whether it's friends, whether it's a client, I am honest with that.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with an autoimmune condition. I struggle with mental health stuff. I struggle with medical stuff. Life also happens, right? I did this big move. I'm in a new home, and because I also know my life doesn't exist in a vacuum, what happens to me and how I show up has impact on others, including my
Mm-hmm.
clients.
Of course.
So I choose to be honest. I choose to say, you know what? I had a flare up last night and I am in a lot of pain, and I'm going to choose to take care of myself so that I can show up for us better, at a different time. Can we flex and pivot around our appointment? Or, you know, um, I have a dear friend who works at a foundation with teen girls. I was supposed to speak in November, and this move kicked my ass. And I said to her, I was honest. I said, listen, this has been on my bucket list for years to be a speaker for your girls, to tell them my story. But I got to be honest, I just cannot white knuckle my way through because they will not get the best of me. Can we put it off to the spring? That
Mm.
would feel more nourishing to me. Do you know the relief when somebody knows that you're leading with honesty?
Yeah.
Do you know how she would feel if I really showed up to an event, pushing it myself beyond my limit,
Mm-hmm.
being in
Yeah.
pain, being uncomfortable?
And
That's
then
a
trying to
dishonoring
mask
to me
that.
and to her. Yes, and to mask that.
Mm-hmm.
So to go back to your question, that's what I choose. That's what I choose every day, to try to lead in that way.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Operating in what is excellent for that day. And it's
You got
and
it. Yes.
and one thing that I try to encourage everyone to understand, whether I'm at work, whether I'm doing work for myself, whether I'm at my 9 to 5, like, show up. I'm going to show up and
Yes.
give 110, right?
Yes.
Now the fact of the matter is that 110 is not going to look the same every single day.
It's not.
And
It can't.
and the moment that we understand that to be fact, because it is true, the easier it's going to be for us to navigate and have a greater
Yes.
human experience.
Yes.
The easier it is
Yes.
going to be.
Yes.
But we get hung up on how we're going to look to other people. I recently had
Yes.
this situation. You know, I
Yeah.
don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to show that I'm ashamed. So I
Yes.
just go ghost, right?
Yes.
And what does
Yes.
that do? That does nothing. That puts me
Nothing.
that does such a disservice.
I'm getting chills as you're talking. Yes.
Listen, it does such a disservice. And I
Yes.
want to let everyone who's listening know that moving in honesty is the key to unlocking a world of change.
And what?
Moving in honesty is the key to unlocking a world of change. There is empathy on the other side of that door. There is compassion on the other side of that door.
There is relief on the other side of that door.
On that other side of the door. There are arms, there's support, there's so much on the other side of the door. And we have to get comfortable with being vulnerable enough to step through that doorway.
Yes. Yes. Because you really want to know the antidote to resilience and action. It really is what you're saying, like your beautiful question. What do you choose, Tawanna? What did you finally decide to choose? Well, it is moving in honesty, no matter how tender and challenging it is. That the greatest freedom I've experienced learning to be like that beautiful work I did with my EMDR therapist. Like that was a moment of beautiful honesty when I like freaking just named that thing, called the thing a thing and named that. That was like that first moment of honesty with myself. And that was all that I had to do. And like that was probably another defining moment that I chose that, right? I can't unsee that, the trueness of that. And so I think that that really is the antidote to, and part of the blueprint to resilience and action. And is that, what would it be like if, like, what would be better, the mild, brief discomfort that comes from leading in honesty, because you know that if you did that, you are honoring yourself and others, or the discomfort and tender and challengingness that comes from being small, being silent, shutting up, not speaking truth, not standing your sacred ground. Both are uncomfortable, but which one would you rather have?
Yeah. And
which reality would you rather live? Which ugly would you want?
And when you choose to minimize yourself, when you choose to take that small path, you don't realize it, but that trickles into every other decision that you're about to make.
You already know it.
Every other
decision. Help but to.
It's already, the seed is already planted, right?
Yep.
And now you've watered it. And when you plant things and you water them, guess what grows?
That's right.
So
that's right.
Choosing to live and move in honesty. And I always say I like to lead with love.
Yes.
I just because if you lead with love, even the ugly thing, the thing that you have to say, the truth that needs to come out.
Yes.
When you lead with love, it's really, really hard to see ugly in what you're saying, and to see ugly in you standing in your truth, you know?
Yes. And you just spoke to what I like to call, with my couples and also even my individuals that I work with, the goo. That is what I call the goo, is leading from a place of love, like anchoring in that, like that pure, genuine place of love. And that place, like when we talk about love, it really is that place where it's not attached to agenda. It's not attached to overperformance, to underperformance. It is really that place of love that's attached to unconditional positive regard. Does that make sense? So I'm just making it more nuanced.
Unconditional positive regard. Come on.
That's that love. I'm just making it more nuanced, but it's yes, just calling it a thing
Come
that it's
on.
attached to that.
Whew.
When you lead from that place and the truth is born out of that place, you're right. Anything is possible.
Mm,
Anything.
everything is possible.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Oh my goodness. Whew. I feel like I need to.
I have a question for you. What are you feeling in mind and body? What's coming in mind and body for you right now, if you don't mind me asking
Yeah,
for your
absolutely.
audience?
Absolutely. I love when my guests ask me questions. Um, I'm feeling a sense of relief.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I was in a situation where I chose to be
Yes.
small for a long time. And it's
Yeah.
good when you have, I'm really big on support systems. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be big, but
Right.
you have to surround yourself with people who's going to hold you accountable.
Hmm.
They're going to hold you up, they're going to hold you accountable. There is not always going to be pillows. You know, sometimes we got to get those boxing gloves on. But
Hmm.
they're going to hit you with those truths that you need to help you live out your truth.
Hmm.
And this conversation is taking me back to, the situation I was in. And,
Yeah.
someone reached out to me and said, hey, like, Erin, we're all better than this. And I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Because I went right back to being a burden.
Yes.
And whenever I feel like I'm a burden to someone or to
Hmm.
someone, I
Hmm.
find any and every way to catastrophize, to
Yes.
um dead the
Yes.
relationship in a sense.
Yes.
I
Yes.
try to I'm thinking of a word. Um not a booby trap, but I try to just
Self-sabotage?
sabotage. I will sabotage the hell out of some shit. Okay.
Mm.
And it took me to having that great support system and being able to have someone reach out to me and say, Erin, you're better than this. We're all better than this.
Hmm.
Basically get your shit together.
Yeah.
And I think I am thankful for this conversation. I'm thankful for the
Mhm.
conversation that I was able to have with that person.
Yes.
And it's just given me a new, more perspective, and of course, more inner and hard work.
Yes.
Hard work is hard work. Like,
Yes.
and
That's
no
soul
one
work,
likes,
baby. I like to call it that soul work.
listen, no one likes to look in the mirror.
Hey, hey, hey. If you're enjoying this content, do not forget to rate and review. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, be sure to rate and review. It helps us reach more people in more ways. Now, let's get back to some resilience.
Okay?
Mm-mm.
No one likes to look in the mirror, but we will hold that some bitch up in front of someone
Yep.
else
Mm-hmm.
and point out all their flaws,
Yep.
all their negativity, and everything they need to work
Yep.
on. Um,
Yep.
so
Yep.
over the past few years, I've been working on sitting my ass in that mirror,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
facing what I see, acknowledging it, because like you were saying earlier, when you can't unsee something once you see it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you can't fix it, you can't address it if you don't see it,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're choosing not to see it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the steps to choose to see my blind spots, to choose to see where I've chosen to be small, to
Yes.
to purposely feel like a burden, because that gives me an out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
May I ask you, because I don't want to overstep, but I would love to offer you another perspective for you
of
to maybe
course.
hold. Would that be
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely,
Okay. I want
absolutely.
to be
Give it to me.
respectful. Um, so I want to gently challenge
Hmm.
in a loving way this, you know, maybe not even challenge, but offer maybe a competing point of view where a different context for you to hold and maybe look at with curiosity, wonder, and awe
Of course.
how you show up in the world.
Okay.
I'm going to say that those ways that you show up, those recycled patterns of making yourself small, those the ease to which you can immediately assume you're a burden and then catastrophize, I'm going to call that an ingenious adaptation of how you've learned to survive in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
That you have become very good at. You've developed this, you have this overdeveloped capacity to do these certain things that one would say, girl, you got to cut that out. Like, what is up with that? Right? Like, that's not a good look.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to like check that pattern, that habit, that behavior. I like to look at it this way because when you look at it this way, it actually softens, it softens you up towards yourself, and it helps to break those shame shackles and those
Okay.
shackles of stigma and self-hatred that come from the ways that we show up in the world that we're very aware aren't good looks for us.
Mm-hmm.
I just choose to look at it in a way, in this really, in this way where instead we could say, oh, wow, wait a minute, like the roots attached to me easily going to a place of a burden and catastrophizing or making myself small. Wait a minute, that's fucking ingenious because somehow along the way I learned that that was going to suit me somehow. There was some utility to that.
Mm-hmm.
And what your loving friends or whoever stewards in your life are saying, it's not working for you as well anymore. It's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm just offering this more balanced, fair, loving position for
Absolutely.
you to hold how you see how you're showing up in the world and understanding that. I'm curious what you heard in that,
And
what I
I'm
was saying.
and I'm big on language. I'm real big on language. Because you could be saying the same thing and the way you present it, the way you say it sounds
Mhm,
completely different. So
mhm.
you're going to hear it differently, you know. So what I'm hearing is that I've developed some strong ass defense mechanisms that helped me survive as a child, but they're not serving me anymore. So what needs to happen is I need to move out of that. I know the root, so go to the root, dig that up, and implant something else, like we talked about the seeds and the
Yes,
trees.
yes,
That's what I'm
yes,
hearing.
yes, yes. And how do you feel like in body as you hear what I propose to you in reciting it out loud for us, for your audience, for me and you? Like how are you feeling in body
Um,
towards self?
I'm feeling like it'll be a challenge. So
Yes, it will be.
I feel like it's a little heavy
Yeah,
because that's my go-to.
yes.
See,
Yeah,
that's my go-to. It's been my go-to, and that go-to, it's it hasn't failed me, but it has.
right.
Like as a child, it didn't fail me because I'm here. We're able to talk, we're able to
Yes,
have this conversation, right?
yes.
But it's heavy because I shouldn't have to carry this.
You don't have to carry that mantle anymore, and it's heavy because you can't unsee the dissonance, you can't unsee how it's not as effective for you anymore, and yet you are allowed to grieve and
Mm-hmm.
have anguish around the no longer utilizing this in the way you used to. You are allowed to grieve that. I hope you know that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying
Absolutely,
that's that
absolutely.
heaviness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just calling a thing a thing. That's that
Call a
heaviness,
thing
right?
a
Like
thing. I did not know
that.
this was happening today, y'all. Woo.
But I'm just saying, I'm just naming, right? Like it, as that heaviness is also that knowing that you can't unknow anymore,
Mm-hmm. And
right? So
so
this is a beautiful gift that you are, you know, sharing with all of us and allowing me to be a part of, right? And it's also very much, you know, my process as well is like, a lot of times we're not, again, to circle back to how we started, we're not given space and permission to grieve what society can quickly say is not a thing we should be doing, right? You should just stop that thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's no longer serving you. But wait a minute, that thing's been serving me. I want to fucking celebrate it and I want to have a party for it. Wait a minute, what do you mean I can't? What?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm giving you and also myself and our audience permission to grieve the things that we know aren't serving us, to have anguish around it as you figure out anew, as you shift, flex, and pivot. Take the best of what you know from this world and then shift it to really align with the best, beautiful version of yourself.
I love it. I love it. Mm, 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 mm. Y'all know. Y'all know this was a therapy session for me. Holy crap. Wow. Tawanna. Whew. First, let me just say that we are, like we are our biggest critics.
Yeah.
And we all just want to be seen and we want to be heard.
Yes.
And we want to experience love.
Yes.
Right. And so for you to give me the permission and give the audience permission and give yourself permission to grieve is big, because we're not allowed to grieve. When you look at bereavement, right, with work, we get like 3 days.
Yeah.
Right. 3. We don't have time to feel what helped us, feel the feelings of joy, of sorrow, of sadness.
Yes, all that. Yes.
Process it.
Yeah.
And then implant new thoughts, new feelings.
Yes.
We don't have that. So thank you for, there's a thing that says this is your sign, and it's a sign that says this is your sign. Like you literally just did that for me, and I am in shock and awe. Okay.
Yes.
I'm shooketh. I'm shook. Right.
Yes.
This was wow.
Yeah, we all deserve it. We deserve it.
Absolutely. 100%, 110%. And everyone out there listening, like you deserve to grieve.
Yes.
Whatever it was that served you, that's no longer serving you. Grieve.
Even if society says it's a partner that's no good for you, you deserve to grieve that person. You deserve to grieve. Whatever. Yes.
Yep. Amazing. How can we support you? Where can we find you on social media? Because I know it's people that want to get in contact with you, girl. Woo! Me included, because we already in contact, but yeah, where can we find you? How can we support you and all that good stuff?
Well, thank you so much, my dear, for asking that. And when you're when this goes close to airing, I have a buy me a coffee page that because I don't really I when I signed up for this, like asking if I was going to get paid for it was not even a thought in my mind, because I just wanted to meet you, and the power of storytelling and how it can heal is just what really got me to the table. And so but I will share my buy me a coffee page, and 75% of the proceeds go to my clients in need who need a Tawanna in their life, who need healing.
Absolutely.
And folks can find me on sacredgroundinstitute.com. That's my website, and Sacred Ground Institute on IG. Or on Facebook as well, Sacred Ground Institute on Facebook. And of course, I'll share all my social media handles with you, as you go to publish this.
Absolutely. This is a conversation unlike any I don't think I've had an interview like this. This is my
Are you kidding? Beautiful interviews, Erin.
I've had a lot of, I love interviewing, right?
I know you do.
I love having conversations. I love hearing stories, systems, and strategies of how people navigate the world, because my goal is to share them to help other people navigate.
Yes.
And this is probably the first conversation that I've had that really shook me. Like in the best way. I was able to go to my past, my childhood. I went to a couple of weeks ago, I was able to teleport in my mind all these different stages and milestones in my life. And that's nothing against anyone else that I've ever interviewed. Girl, you just got some talent. You got some skills. I'm here for it. I am here for it. I am absolutely here for it.
I received that. Well, that, this is the power of what I always tell my beautiful people is we are each other's survival guides.
Absolutely.
We just are.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. I cannot wait to re-listen to this episode.
Yes.
Woo,
yes.
It's going to be lit. Okay. I have one final question for you. Then I promise I'll get out of your hair.
All right.
Tawanna, what does resilience mean to you?
So, Erin, resilience means, and the way I'm gonna talk about it is, it's no one linear thing. It's not black and white. It's not static. So, it is textured. It is nuanced. Resilience is the ability to not hold so tightly to an agenda, but to be able to be moved, influenced, impacted in ways that you expected and were unexpected. Resilience is being able to flex and pivot. It's innovation, it's creativity. It is standing your sacred ground while honoring the best of you and knowing that as you anchoring that, you're also honoring those around you. Resilience is being close to death in all the ways and shapes and forms that can happen. But having this undeniable ability to see the other end, it being unmistakable. That to me, that is resilience. That is resilience. And resilience is also knowing, not knowing, and muddling through. That's what it is.
I love it. Beautiful.
Yeah.
100%. And it's all like movements. It's all.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
It's an action.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. The beauty of the title of your movement, your podcast. Yes. It is not meant to be static or linear or rigid or black and white.
It is meant for movement. It's meant to.
Yes.
And it's meant to mean something different to everyone.
Yes. Everybody. It is unique. Yes. Yes. It's unique. It's also shared. It's meant to evolve. Right.
Yep. Because I can say that my definition of resilience 5 years ago isn't my definition of resilience today.
Absolutely. I hope not.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
not a judgment. I just hope
absolutely. I hope it's not, we gotta grow. We gotta grow. We have to give ourselves that permission to elevate. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that.
Tawanna, you've been a pleasure.
What a joy, my friend.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to rate and review. And remember, Resilience in action will always lead to a greater human experience.